Hey guys, my name is Christy and this is my Crafty Country. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a bunch of DIYs for bees. I just stuck with that theme, and my first project was this tier tray that is one that I had already made in the past, and when I had went to paint it before, I messed up the paint and I just didn't like it, so I set it aside and knew that I would come back to it one day with a project. So I am painting the entire thing with some black Waverly chalk paint, and I think I only did one coat. I did have to do some touch-up spots, but I let that dry completely, and then I applied Mod Podge to the end of the top pan, and this didn't work out as good as I expected or as good as I wanted it to. I am putting some paper in it and I'm heating it up like normally you would use an iron. But with this pan, I knew the residual heat of it would heat up really good, so I used my heat gun to melt the Mod Podge, and then I was able to just press it down and it stayed on pretty well. Here I am making a beehive, and on this video, fair warning, I jump around a lot. I had different projects going at different times, and I just jumped all over the place. So I had this little glass jar that obviously it's all from Dollar Tree, I'm pretty sure. I just wrapped it with some of this rope. I think it's called nautical rope. And this is a skinnier version. A lot of times they have like the fat ones, like the fat nautical rope. This is some of the smaller sized. And since this was a smaller jar, I opted for this. If you have a bigger jar, then by all means use the large nautical rope. I just wanted to make a small one for my tier tray. So I just wrapped the entire thing, the lid as well, and then I used a small piece and glued it to itself to make a circle, to make a loop, and I am making the opening for the beehive. So I just glue that on the front. And one part I forgot to include here is when you use this nautical rope, after you get finished, you want to like use a lighter and kind of burn off the little fringy pieces, and it makes the rope look a little bit darker. And just be careful, don't hurt yourself, but it just burns off real easy. So to finish the beehive, I made myself a little shoelace bow out of this black and white buffalo check ribbon. I used a little piece of wire to tie it off in the middle, and then I just glued it up there at the top and put a sunflower smack dab in the middle of the bow, just to kind of tie it in with the Bumblebee theme. For this DIY, I'm going to transform one of the Dollar Tree's pillar candles. Now I got this little dress-up outfit from the kids section over by the toys, and I just needed it for its fabric, so I cut it apart and got a square about the size I needed, and I'm going to hot glue it to the outside of this pillar candle. And like I said, this is just one of the plastic battery operated jobs. Obviously you couldn't do this with a real candle because one, you'd burn the fabric, and two, you'd never be able to get it on there. So just use one of the plastic ones and wrap it around and glue it in place, and then cut off the excess. That way you could still get to the switch on the bottom. And then once I had everything glued down, I got a couple pieces of greenery off of a pick and wrapped it around the top, and then finished it off with a couple of those little paper sunflowers. Now the sunflowers I'm using on these DIYs, I got them in the fall. They were like paper crafting things. Sunflowers are always good, and I have a bunch of little bitty things, like you see that tin that I pulled them out of. I have like the magnetic tins like that, and I have them stuck on the side of my fridge right by my craft table to where all my little bitties, I can find them easy. For this one, I am going to transform this little book stack. When I saw these at Dollar Tree, I picked up a couple, and a friend actually sent me one, so I had an extra one to mess with. So I covered the whole thing with the chalk paint, and then I am going to be using some of the yellow cricket vinyl, and I cut 2 strips and covered 2 of the books. What was called the books? You'll see what I'm talking about. I ran 2 strips around the side, and then I covered the top and the bottom to where it looks like the top book and the bottom book are yellow and the center book is black. And I did use my little Cricut scraper to get all the air bubbles out, and one strip went almost all the way around, and then I had to like cut off a little extra piece to kind of fill it in. but I used my sanding block to sand off the edges. And I say this every time I use the Cricut vinyl for a DIY. If you are using the sanding block, make sure you pull downward. Don't sand side to side, because if you do side to side, you risk pulling your vinyl up or tearing it. And I've done that before and it sucks to have to start over. So you do see me go side to side a couple times. Probably not the smartest move, but make sure you go up and down. Now here I had printed off some words on my Cricut and I put always be kind. Yeah, it was always be kind. Sorry, I can't see it. And I did the black and yellow, and then I wrapped it with this burlap ribbon to replace where it had the buffalo check before. I made a little bow and then another one of those cute little sunflowers right in the middle of the bow. So here I paint one of the little clay pots that you can get at Dollar Tree, and they actually have them out now. I think this one came from Dollar Tree. It was in my stash, honestly, but I do know they have them every year. So I put a little styrofoam ball down in the bottom and put moss on it, and then glued in some little like scrap greenery picks that I have. I keep all the little pieces because there's always like a little tier tray job you can do later. So I just glued in some little fall flowers and that one was done. So now for my next trick, I'm going to make a little table out of a little wood plank, or a piece of a wood plank, and 4 of the little snowmen, the wood snowmen, I flipped them upside down and super glued them to the bottom of the wood plank. And then I missed the footage, but I used the Mod Podge and ironed on the scrap of paper. I will link a video on how to do that down below, but I used cardstock paper and did the iron-on technique, and that was all there was to the table. Now the beads, I tried to paint them by hand and I gave up. So I laced them on this kebab stick, put them across a basket, set it in there in the box, and then spray painted them. So much easier. I was able to turn the kebab stick and paint and turn and paint. So then all I had to do was make my little sign to put on my table. And it was super cute. If you've seen the magnets that people make using 3 of the Jenga blocks, all you do is super glue the Jenga blocks together and then Mod Podge a little square off the back of one of the calendars on there. So then all I did was I painted the back and the sides of the square after I was done, and I also used a little bead to help it stand up, and this little sign will be sitting on my table. If you have any questions on how to do any of these, something I might have missed, just put it in the comments below, because I know I jumped around a lot and I'm going to work on doing multiple projects per video. So practice will make perfect, I guess. Next, I will use one of the little wooden hearts from the Valentine's stuff, and I put Mod Podge on this, and I had done Mod Podge before and on this, and there was paint mixed in with it by accident from where it was on my brush, so that's why it looked kind of white. I used more of the Bumblebee fabric and did the iron-on technique, and then used some words off of my Cricut like I did on the book stack. And on this, I think it just says be kind, and it worked out perfect because I had screwed up on I tried to do always be kind again. I screwed up on always, so the be kind fit perfectly on here. I think the always would have been a little bit too big. So then I used some Waverly antiquing wax and went around the outside edge. If you do want to use the antiquing wax on, or paint the outside edge of this, do it before you put the fabric on. This was an afterthought, so it would have worked out better had I put it on before. Then I just put a little bow and a sunflower on there, and this is what I got, guys. I loved doing the bee theme. I did put tassels on the end of my bead strand after I was done. And I think I missed the little house on my video, The house, all I did was I used cricket vinyl on the roof. I painted it black and then I used yellow cricket vinyl on his roof. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave me a like, a comment down below, and subscribe before you leave. Thanks for watching.